I wanted to, in a way, we're kind of like going back to the beginning, but we can't always do that when we begin our session. We've been working on the Taiji. I can't even remember if we did in Taiji Qigong, if we did the primary set, but we probably did. I remember doing the rocking set, and we've been doing the walking set for a while now. And we finished the last movement of the walking set, but we're going to continue to integrate this snake creeps down movement and the infinity drill movement that we kind of been working on. We're going to revisit the primary set, which is before the rocking and walking set, the primary set. And it's pretty much stationary Qigong. I'm going to share 4 simple movements with you today. And the primary set, I think it's like 6 or 8 different movements. But I like these 4 different ones. It's easy to remember. They're simple. And in a way, they're balanced because there's 4 different drills. And in a way, it's 2 different drills because they balance each other directionally. So in a way, it's 2 different, but within those 2, because they're both directions, it's 4. So let's check it out. It's let's go into expelling the chi. So this is known as getting rid of the dirty chi. Yes, Dennis knows this one. A little bit of traffic there. So it's a simple movement where the hands close almost like you're kind of taking off your t-shirt, going up, over, around, down, and then it continues, cycles through again. The balancing movement is pouring the chi into the Bai Hui. So remember, the Bai Hui gate is at the top of the head. And so you're reaching out, gathering the chi from all around and pulling it into the body. When you think of pouring the chi into the Bai Hui, you can think of the thrusting vessel, which is in the spinal cord. You can also think of the perineum. You can think of the matching gate, which is the Huiyin gate. Or you can also think of pouring chi going down into the legs and into the ground. So this is how we kind of regulate the mind. It's like, where are we gathering from? Where are we directing it to? Okay, so those are the first 2 movements. So how do we begin? Remember, the movement always originates in the feet. So first thing we do is bend the knees, feel the weight of the body in the legs, in the feet connected to the ground. Release your spine, release your torso to gravity, closing the spine. Engage the arms. You can start to engage the chest bow here as well. Now push into the earth, extending the legs, opening spine, engage shoulders, elbows, wrists, lastly, then fingers. Open out and around. Now here's where you regulate the mind. How far can your mind expand out and around you? Try to get a sense of that. That's kind of really key here. How far can your mind expand out and around you? Okay. Sinking the weight again, bending the knees, closing spine, pushing into the earth, extending legs, opening spine, engage shoulders, elbows, wrists, and then hands and fingers. And this would be exhale. And then the arms come down. Again, the sinking energy. Beginning again. Extending legs, starting to inhale. Opening spine, shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers. Last, exhaling. Closing spine, remember. Extending legs, opening spine, shoulders, elbows, wrists, hands, fingers, last. Inhaling, long, smooth, continuous in the nose. Exhaling. You're always free to exhale out the mouth if need be. So that's the movement, simply. Where you find nuance, where you find detail, is how you engage and disengage the bows, the joints, the tissues, how you coordinate the mind in sync with breath and body. So for a few minutes, go at your own pace, observing breath, coordinating breath and body. And see how well you can subtly utilize the spine wave in there. Great. We're going to add another element to this. Now, go ahead and keep going at your own pace. Some of you might be familiar with the torus, not in astrology, but the energetic pattern. It's often seen, you can see it online, but the torus is sort of like a meridian structure that is the body's own biomagnetic field. And it kind of goes in this circular direction out of the head, circles out and around, and then back in, feet, continues up, exits out. But the torus is three-dimensional. So in this plane of movement that we are doing, it doesn't really satisfy the torus in this way. However, if we turn the torso, now I start to get a different plane of movement with the arms. And I'm moving my arms in the same plane as my shoulders are. So now you see I get more dimensionality. In terms of also regulating the mind. So how far can your mind expand? I know that's one of the questions. The hands always help to direct mind. So in this way, you've got a different direction than what was before. Turn to the opposite side. And don't forget the fundamentals, sinking the weight, bending the knees, the movement beginning from the feet, extending legs, opening spine, shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers. Great. So you're more familiar with it now. Turn back to the center. We're going to do 2 repetitions on each side and each angle. This is 1. This is 2. And then I'm going to rotate the torso, keeping the feet parallel. Doing 2 repetitions here. And then switch. Repeat the cycle, going back to center. And when you get back to the center again, you can bring the movement to a close. You can go to observation, embracing Wu Ji, standing in that stillness. Just observing, feeling, sensing, erecting spine, elongating spine, lifting head, tucking the chin slightly in. Okay, so now we're going to reverse it. Movement starts the same, bending the knees, closing spine, engaging arms, pushing into the earth, extending knees, opening spine, lifting arms, inhaling, and here the mind is challenged. How far can the mind extend? And then come in and condense into the body. And in this way, it also helps to close the eyes. We're going to turn to the sides in this movement as we did in the previous. When you get back to the center, go ahead and stop there. Okay, we're going to go to the next two movements. Also quite simple. It's also a two movement arm series. So lifting the arms, pushing to the front, coming back, down, and then the balancing in this case is going to be opening and then side, back. And in this case, in these movements, we learned that moving out, extending out from the center is an exhaling movement. Coming back into center is an inhaling movement. So pushing out, exhaling, coming back in, inhaling. Right, so there's an exhaling out, inhaling in, exhaling down, then inhaling up, exhaling out to the sides, inhaling in, exhaling down. So we also have that exhaling down, settling of the hands movement. Okay. So we'll just alternate those front, side, inhaling up, bend the knees, sink the weight as you push out. Inhale in. Exhale down. Then we'll inhale up. And then always leading with the fingers. And then settling the wrist at the end. Engage the legs. Don't forget to engage the legs. I'm going to the front now. Hands are coming in. I am rising here. Sinking weight to prepare. Inhaling, lifting hands. Dropping elbows, pointing fingers, pushing out, and then settling the wrists. You don't really extend or lock the elbows. You don't want to lock the elbows. Coming back, inhale. And then hands settling. Bending knees, closing spine. Inhaling, lifting hands. Dropping elbows, pointing the fingers forward to lead with the fingers. At the end of the movement, settle the wrists. You notice that's a common movement in Tai Chi. Coming back, inhaling. Bend knees, close spine to prepare. Inhale, lifting hands. Drop the elbows, point the fingers. Push to the side. Sink the weight, bend the knees. Come back, inhale. Find a nice, comfortable pace for yourself. Great. Let's come back to the center. Inhale. Observe the body. Relaxed shoulders. Relaxed elbows. Elongating the spine, so putting that energy into the posture, lifting the head, slightly tucking the chin. Good. We'll take a short little break there. I just want to mention a couple of things, and then feel free to ask a question if you have. One of the common movements you've probably seen by now is settling of the wrist. So these movements help to start to get used to that concept, settling of the wrist, which is whether you're going forward or to the side. You see this in the brush knee step posture, the movement initiates with the fingers forward, and then we do the settling of the wrist. I have this concept in my mind, kind of like how a plane lands on the airport on the tarmac. It sort of goes in, but then the rear wheels sort of touch first, right? In this case, we're not going flat down with the hand. In this case, we're continuing to go, leading with the palm. So the fingers lead. Yeah, we've been looking at a couple of those also in what's it called? The monkey, repulse the monkey. We saw that in repulse the monkey previously. So that's what I wanted to mention. Any questions about that movement? About those movements? So 4 basic movements. Honestly, these are like the 4 basic movements that I first started with, just to reintroduce that Qigong state, that relaxed awareness is what I call it, relaxed awareness. You're not so relaxed that you're asleep, and you're not so aware that you're anxious or in a fight or flight mode. So there's a relaxed awareness there. You're there, but you're calm and centered. So that's what I like to call the relaxed, the Qigong state, relaxed awareness. And it's in that state that we want to, maintain ourselves, mind, body, emotional senses, psychological, the psycho-emotional state of being. And then from there, you can start to do more of the work, more of the more difficult work, more of the more challenging work. And then if you start to get into the emotions start to bubble up, arise, or however you like to talk about it, stimulated, you start to get stimulated, then you can go back to that relaxed awareness state. You don't want to get so relaxed that you're sleeping unless that's what you want to do. So you have that spectrum of being in the, we usually talk about the brainwave state. This is the theta state. This is where there's the least amount of brain activity before you fall asleep. So we call that the semi-sleep state, drowsy state. Anne, you have a question?
I was having a little trouble coordinating, figuring out what to do with the elbows in this last movement, when to put them up and when to put them down. So I was kind of all over the place. Do you have guidance on that?
Right. Yeah, I mentioned something before. The elbow direction is key. One, for martial Qigong, it protects the vital organs in the cavities. So, we want to be aware of that and conscious of that. Also, it helps to use the body muscles, helps to use the leg muscles when you drop the elbow, rather than the arm muscles. When the elbow starts to rise, we sort of have the tendency of using shoulder strength or arm strength, right? So we like to keep the elbows down. So for this movement where we bring the hands up, we're pushing forward, again, still elbows are down. And there's this subtlety in the chest bow that closes, which is connected to spine, which is connected to hips and legs. And then when we go to the side, it's hard to see here. The chest opens, shoulders drop, elbows drop, arms extend as we sink the weight. You get more used to that. The important thing to remember is, I would say this is the important thing, because that's probably the most used, the settling of the wrist. Settling of the wrist is one of those subtle details that's difficult to integrate. And I haven't mentioned, but we probably should talk about the hand form, the Tai Chi hand form. This is also a good opportunity to start to integrate the Tai Chi hand form, where I mentioned it before, the thumb is slightly in, pinky slightly back. It's sort of like a Buddha palm, right? So when we're doing these movements, we want to start to integrate that as well. That eventually feeds into the Tai Chi form. Again, I should also mention that in terms of energetically and in terms of the mind, posturing the fingers in this way helps to guide the energy into the Lao Gong cavity. It's usually why we use that posture, to centralize the energy and intent into the, in a way, if we're doing a push, our body, our mind, and then breath integrated are all centered in that Lao Gong cavity, so to apply force if needed. So the settling of the wrist is usually like a pop when it's applied. Yeah.
Can you
do Tai Chi? Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you describe the hand form again? I forgot exactly.
Think of So two things. You can think of thumb slightly in, pinky slightly back. And it should be relaxed. So you want to hold it in a relaxed way. So that's one way of thinking about it. Another way of thinking about it is kind of like connecting middle finger and thumb. If you kind of pull in middle finger, if you kind of pull in thumb, that sort of brings the hands to the Tai Chi posture.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So that's what I wanted to mention about these four basic movements that are, balanced and also help to start to get one into the Qigong state, the relaxed awareness state. And so from there, we can do some maybe more challenging or strenuous work. So with that in mind, we're going to go and revisit the infinity drill. Okay. So remember the infinity drill and remember the patterns. You want to think of a figure 8. And if you're looking down at your feet, you can visualize the figure 8. There's also a linear line if you want to think of a more simple pattern, which is a straight line from one foot to the other. That is helpful.
Javi froze. He's got a sort of like a fuck you finger up there.
Well, he tends to freeze up occasionally, doesn't he?
Yeah. They don't have a good they don't have a good connection. Oh, he's gone.
Oh, he's gone. Now he's gone. He'll be back.
Yeah,
I predict he'll be back.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, Margaret, I was listening to Democracy Now! Last week, and the person they were interviewing, it was a remote interview. They were not in the studio, and his computer was making the same sounds that yours makes.
Oh, I heard that. I
Oh,
heard
did
that.
you?
Yeah, yeah.
It was fantastic.
I'm not alone.
That was so great.
I have static buddies.
Yes, exactly. Oops.
So is my computer making that noise now?
No, it just made it for a second. That's what reminded me.
It does.
was-
It just does sometimes, and then it doesn't. And I don't know anything about it. It just does what it does.
Yeah, you don't hear it on, but it was actually quiet last week too, I think. Yeah.
Well, I switched microphones occasionally. I don't know how it works, but I have to switch my microphones. Sometimes I can't hear. And yesterday I had a meeting on Zoom that I had to switch. I had to try all my different microphones. I had about 6 listed in my control panel. And I finally found one that was working, that I could hear them. Well, yeah, no, I could hear them. They couldn't hear me.
Oh.
And so, but you know how the yellow thing comes around your thing, your picture when
Yes.
you're talking? Well,
Yeah.
mine didn't do that. And
Oh,
so the yellow line came up, then I knew they could hear me and that I was talking. So anyway, I changed it. I didn't change it back yet. And so maybe it's a different, better microphone.
yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah. Huh.
all in the computer.
Right. Yeah, you don't have any idea.
Yeah, I just know I did learn how to do that. One time my sound went way hinky and I called the guy. We have a guy here in town that does tech support, and they walked me through it and told me how to change the microphones. And so now
Nice.
I have a new skill.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
It's so wonderful. We have computers now that save us so much time and save us paper and don't pollute anything. Isn't that just wonderful?
Yeah, that'd be a great idea, wouldn't it? All right. He's back.
Unfrozen at last.
Oops. Go.
Off again, on again.
Okay.
All right.
Stay relaxed no matter what happens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Javi.
Okay. I think my iPad got too hot in the sun. So we're going to the infinity drill as mentioned. Starting with the feet comfortably parallel, rocking from side to side. First, starting to feel the connection of the foot to the earth and that vector of energy sort of pushing away, allowing you to rock from one side to the other. Nice and smooth and continuous is always what we're looking for. Coordinating with your breath smoothly. As you become more acclimated, the tissues are more awakened, the joints are warmed up, then you could start to explore the range. So in this way, turn the torso more. Turn the torso and then rock back. Turn the torso, rock back. You should get this nice rotating, swinging feeling. And rocking back. So I want to encourage you to inhale as you swing the torso to the side and exhale as you extend the leg and rock to one side. Swing the torso, inhaling, and then exhale, sitting back, relatively sitting back. So there's a little bit of a Qigong hack here. Qigong hack. Okay. So in our effort to drop the center of gravity, in our efforts to sink the weight and get lower in the stances, we don't want to force it, of course. That would just lead to injury. So we got to figure out how to slowly get into the position, but not just that, create the conditions that give us the desired posture. So what are those conditions? The Qigong state, relaxed, in the tissues, warm, connective tissues, warm joints, and then slowly exploring the range. So that's a general sense, but more specifically, what we do is, because our exhales are connected to descending energy, relaxing energy, that's where we fall into the posture, if you will. On the exhale, descending energy. So in this way, as mentioned, you swing and rotate the torso to the side, inhaling, push to that back leg, exhaling, descending and bending the leg, allowing the joints to give way to gravity. Inhaling to the side, exhaling, because exhaling is a relaxing, releasing movement. You might notice the feet naturally start to spread apart, which is fine, it's good. You're exploring your range. Again, inhaling, exhaling. Observing the legs, observing the joints, allowing them to relax and give to gravity. And at any time, you can start to bring the feet closer to one another and start to rise up. Let's come back to the center and I'll just explain a little bit more. I still have this diagram here from our previous session talking about infinity drill. So remember we were talking about, so if you can see my stick figure, here's the torso, here's the legs are in red. And we talked about the figure 8 movement that takes us down, dropping center of gravity closer to the ground. So we talked about this spiraling 3-dimensional pattern, down and then back up. So I'm specifically, today I'm specifically talking about exhaling breath as descending energy, and as a method and a strategy to not get lower. So when I was learning, it's like, get lower, get lower, get lower. Okay, well, how do you get lower? That's what everybody wants to know is, well, how do you do something, right? So in this way, we're revisiting Qigong principles to create the conditions so that the body lowers, if that makes sense. So you see the contrasting difference there, how one is yang, one is yin relatively. So in a yang way, it's like you make it happen. In a yin way, well, you create the conditions to allow it to happen. You set up the environment to allow something to happen. In the yang way, you're attached to the expectation. So if you're attached to the expectation, that creates the condition for emotional stimulation. In the yin way, when you create the conditions, you kind of work towards just creating the environment, bringing things together. You're not as attached to the outcome because you're actually more focused on, well, what needs to come together to give me my outcome? I would say that gives you an environment of less probability of emotional stimulation. So that's an aside. I'm not sure if that speaks to you or not, but when we're going side to side, right? When we're going side to side and we're doing this movement, yes, in a way we're going side to side. What I was trying to guide you towards was in a way, when you go side to side, in a way you're going down, right? That's if you're going to bend this knee, right? You're not always going down because eventually you'd be on the floor. But we're keeping this main lateral movement. If we're going to this side, then in this case, on our exhale, we're going to go down. Okay. I forgot to mention that when you're swinging, when you're rotating your torso, that's your inhale. So each time you go to the side, to each side, you're descending to bend the knees, right? So you're swinging torso to the side, and you're going to sit back, and in this way, you're descending down, right? Swinging torso to the side, and then in this way, you're sitting down into the leg. And if I were to exaggerate that movement in the body, it looks like I'm turning to the side and then descending down here. This is my exaggeration. So this is that straight line. If you see that, then I rotate, and then if I exaggerate, it looks like this. Okay. Now, if I spread my legs out more, eventually I'll get to here. Here. In a way, this is the pattern I'm trying to draw out for you. So there's a rising there that happens as well. There's that downward, then there's a lifting, and there's a. So I'm not going to guide you towards that or with that one just yet, because we're trying to keep the legs mostly straight. And the most important thing is it's not the stance itself. It's the conditions. It's how you're acclimated and familiar with the conditions. Because when you're more familiar with the conditions, you can recreate them over and over. From there, you explore the range. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you can create the conditions in each session, and you stick with the pattern and the track and the lines, at some point you'll be, well, really low, right? But that's not really the important thing. It's important to your coach, to your teacher, because they want you to perform in a certain way, right? But the important thing to you is the conditions, creating the conditions. So going back to where we first started, 4 simple movements to create the Qigong state, okay? And then that Qigong state, after that, feeling what relaxed awareness is, staying in that state, and then doing the challenging work or the difficult work or the stretching or the elongating or the bending of the legs, the lowering of the center of gravity, which is more challenging, taxing their larger muscles. The joints, we're not necessarily acclimated to moving in this way, as we're just used to just walking forward, right? So all of these are very challenging, but then being able to go to that relaxed Qigong state, the relaxed awareness. So in a way, this is connected to that infinity drill exercise, right? Yeah, I'd like you to explore infinity drill, keep exploring infinity drill, right? But remember what comes before it. In a way, it's kind of like mindset. What's the mindset that comes before it? What's the the feeling? It's more of the feeling and the sense, which is that qigong state. And those four basic movements, easy to remember, easy to do, help get us into that state with whatever work we want to do. So that's what I wanted to cover today.